Okay. 7. It's 7:03. Today is July 8th, 2026. Just came back from the gym. Man, I love this feeling. I'm going to read. I already finished chapter 20, I think. Okay. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Now I will tell you a secret. Maybe I was quiet, but I still found ways to fight back. And I am not proud to tell you what I did, because they were only mean things that made my heart glad. Once I stole a mahjong tile from the set. The next time Wenfu's mother and her friends sat down to play, they soon discovered they could not continue until they found the missing piece. I heard Wenfu's mother shouting, "Are you sure? Stack them again. Count them again." I had to hold my stomach in, trying not to laugh. Another time I was so angry because Wenfu refused to spend money to fix the broken windows all over the house. Insects and diseases are coming in the house, I told him. He didn't care. So one day I took a little box and went into the garden and poked under rocks. Later, I went into Wenfu's room, the one he had taken over from my father. I sprinkled little bugs in his dresser and under the padding of his bed. This was when I had my own room across from his. And at night, I could hear him chasing those bugs with shouts, slapping them with his slippers. Of course, he still did not fix those windows. Later, I even found a way to get back my mother's room for my own. When Wenfu's mother moved in, she picked this room for herself, and I was always angry to see her there. So I found my chance when I heard her complain. Last night was so cold, as if a wind were blowing right through the walls. Right away I said, I heard that a woman died in that room. I turned to Sanma, "Isn't this true?" And Sanma was glad to help. Murder or suicide, Sanma said. Nobody knew. The circumstances were never clear. Of course, that was a long time ago. Nothing to worry about now. That day, Wenfu's mother forced me to change rooms with her. But even my mother's ghost could not prevent Wenfu from coming into my room late at night, smelling of nightclubs, cigarettes, whiskey, and perfume. He would roll me over, unbend my arms, unbend my legs, as if I were a folding chair. And when he was done satisfying himself, he would get up and go to his room. Not one word spoken between us. That's crazy. I would get up too. I always kept a basin of water in my room for just this reason. I would wet a rough clothes, then wash myself, rubbing hard wherever he had touched my skin, over and over again. And when I was done, I would throw this dirty water out the window. Pya! Okay, chapter 20. 4 daughters on the table. Do you remember Edna Fong? She goes to our church. 3 daughters, 2 sons. One became a doctor. She was at Baobao's engagement party in a red dress. Helen said Edna just found out that one of her sons has a mental problem. Edna's son has a problem, not Helen's. Although Helen was saying how she always worried about Frank, no secure future. But when she heard about Edna's son, she became grateful. About Frank, that is, not about Edna's son. She said, At least I should be grateful I don't have this kind of worry in my family. I thought to myself, this is not being grateful. This is an excuse. The same kind of reasoning people used in China. looking at someone else's misery so you would no longer have to think about your own problems. Why should you compare your life that way? This kind of thinking only makes you feel afraid. You are only thinking about what more you can lose, not hoping for something better. If I had thought this way in China, then I would still be there, because I saw many people with lives worse than my own. In Shanghai, for example, after the war, you could see all kinds of beggars, many of them women, sitting on the side of the street. Some had signs printed with their story, like advertisements. This one's husband left her. This one had her whole family wiped out during the war. This one's husband had become an opium addict and sold everything, including the children. Maybe some of these stories were exaggerations, but you can imagine what I was thinking. I had once told myself I'd rather leave my marriage and become a beggar. I was scared. If I'd known I was running away to something better, that would have been different. But I had no such hope to run to. I thought about this for a long time, and then you know what I decided? I still wanted to leave. It's true. I was lying in my bed one night and I vowed this to myself with the full moon as my witness. I don't know what this was, stubbornness maybe. I only knew I could not survive living with Wenfu that way. So you see, my mind was made up long before I found something to hope for. I was going to leave after I paid a visit to old aunt and new aunt on Chongming Island. That was only proper. But before I could go to the island, Danru got sick with a high fever, then turned yellow with jaundice. What's that? And then I became sick with the same thing. I think it was a disease we picked up from that time we were on the road with Hulan and Jiaguo after we left Kunming. I know this because Jiaguo wrote us a letter, told us about their apartment and all the progress he was making in his new job. At the bottom, Hulan wrote a few words in her childish handwriting. She talked about Jiaguo's parents, very nice people, about a new table she had bought, beautiful beyond words, and at the end, she said her health was good, although recently she had been sick. Jiaguo added that she had turned as yellow as a field of wheat and as skinny as the blade that cut the wheat down. So you see, I think it was some little river crabs Hulan wanted to eat in Changsha. That's what made us sick. It stayed in our bodies and broke out one day. Anyway, after Danru became sick, I had to send a messenger to the island to tell old aunt why we were not coming. After the war, there still were no telephones connecting Shanghai to the island. 1 week later, I received a letter back from old aunt written in her bad Chinese. Like Hulan, old aunt had never gone to school. She learned to write only after she was already grown up. So her Chinese was not the formal kind you learned for writing. She did not know the proper expressions to use to show you are from a refined background. Instead, she put down whatever popped into her mind. This old aunt of yours, she wrote, nearly tore the letter in half. I was so anxious when I saw the man standing at my door. How can you say it is only a little illness? Nothing important? Health is always the most important thing. Everybody healthy, not like Miao Tai Tai. You remember her? Made your wedding with the Wen family? Only last week this happened. 1 minute she was standing, complaining about a fly chasing her. Next minute, lying on the floor. What a calamity. So then, the Miao husband ran down the street to telephone the local doctor. He was calling, couldn't get through. All the lines were being used. So then he tried calling again. No use. So then he ran outside, shouted to a boy, "Hey, go get the doctor, hurry. Here's some money." So then that boy ran off, fast as a racehorse. That's what a neighbor woman said. So who knows why the doctor took so long? Who knows who he was treating? Not me. 2-3 hours later, the doctor went to the Miao house. Guess what he found? The Miao wife crying over the Miao husband, cold as the floor he was lying on. Dead. Let your heart think about this. Scared himself to death just thinking she was dead. She didn't die. He died. That for nothing. I told you, uncle. Now do you believe me? We should fix the telephone. During the war, it stopped working. This was when I was trying to call uncle at the factory and could not get through. Now your uncle says, "Who needs a telephone? My health is not good. He knows this. If I fall on the floor, then what happens? Wait, do not worry too much about me. But when you come here, you must tell your uncle, Auntie is right, fix the telephone. You must ask him, what is most important, no telephone or no wife?" As I said, health is important. You get well fast. Drink lots of hot things if the sickness runs cold. Cold things if the sickness runs hot. You write and tell me when you can come. Now I have to stop writing and go to the Miao House husband's funeral. Give greetings to everybody. When Danru and I finally went to Chongming Island, it was already past the New Year, 1946. Hold on, let me stop and turn off the alarm. Bye-bye.